All right, today we're diving into the circular economy. Now, this is way more than just a fancy term for recycling. It's a fundamental redesign of our entire industrial world, powered by technology, to build a future that's not just sustainable, but also incredibly resilient.
This right here, this single idea is the heart of the whole thing. It completely reframes the problem. It forces us to stop seeing waste as this unavoidable fact of life and start seeing it for what it is, a design flaw, a problem that can be engineered out of the system right from the get-go. For centuries, our industrial world has been stuck on this one-way street. We take resources, we make something, and then we just dispose of it. The circular model completely flips that script. Instead of a dead end, it's a continuous, regenerative loop that's specifically designed to keep value and materials in the system.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll break down the flaw in that old linear model. Then we'll explore the new circular framework. After that, we'll get into designing for the future, look at the huge global economic shift that's happening, and finally, we'll talk about the transition that lies ahead.
Okay, let's kick things off with Section 1, the linear model's flaw. We're going to take a hard look at the take, make, dispose system we're all trying to move away from. The linear economy operates on a pretty dangerous assumption, right? It assumes we have an infinite supply of resources and an infinite amount of space to dump our waste. We know that's not true. And that, right there, is the core problem the circular economy was literally designed to solve.
So, let's move into Section 2 and see how we can build a new framework. Here we'll get into the actual principles and actions that make up a truly regenerative system. You know, the circular economy really comes down to three incredibly elegant principles. First, you design waste and pollution out from the very start. Second, you keep products and materials circulating at their highest value for as long as possible. And third, you actively work to regenerate our natural systems, not just take from them.
And you might be wondering, how do we even manage all this? Well, this is what makes it possible at a massive scale: technology. Things like IoT sensors, digital twins, and blockchain. These are the powerful engines that make these complex circular systems efficient, transparent, and frankly possible.
Okay, so those are the big ideas, but how do you do it? That's where the 7 R's come in. This framework gives us a really practical toolkit of strategies, from rethinking entire business models all the way to remanufacturing products to keep value in the system and keep waste out. Now on to Section 3, designing for the future. This is so critical because this is really where the magic happens. Circularity isn't some feature you can just bolt on at the end. It has to be baked in from the absolute beginning. So why this obsession with design? Well, get this, a staggering 80% of a product's total environmental impact is locked in right at the design stage. The choices made right here before anything is even built are what determine if a product becomes a future resource or just future trash. So what's in a circular designer's toolbox? Well, they're constantly thinking about the entire life cycle. They're designing for longevity through things like modularity and durability. They're designing for circularity, meaning things can be taken apart easily. And of course, they're focused on resource efficiency from day one. Let's dig into that life cycle thinking idea for a second. It's a complete mindset shift. Designers are no longer just thinking about how a product is made and sold. They are considering its entire journey, from the moment raw materials are pulled out of the ground to its very end of life, so they can anticipate and prevent negative impacts before they ever happen. Okay, let's zoom out. In Section 4, we're going to look at the global economic shift that's underway, checking out the tangible benefits and the regulatory pressures that are really speeding up this transition all over the world. And what's so fascinating here is that the environmental and economic benefits are two sides of the same coin. They go hand in hand. On one side, we see less pollution and less resource extraction, and on the other, that leads directly to new revenue streams, more resilient supply chains, and a huge wave of innovation. Turns out, sustainability is actually a competitive advantage. And I want to be clear, this isn't just a theory anymore. It's rapidly becoming law. This timeline really shows that growing momentum. You can see how the EU in particular is setting these really ambitious goals, making the circular economy a central pillar of its entire plan for climate neutrality. So how are governments making this happen? Well, they're using very specific tools to drive this change. We're talking about things like digital product passports to track a product's entire history, extended producer responsibility to make manufacturers accountable for their products' end of life, and a whole host of new reporting and eco-design rules that are making circular practices the new norm.
And finally, in Section 5, let's talk about the road ahead. Look, a systemic change of this size is never going to be easy, so it's really important to be clear-eyed about both the hurdles and the absolutely massive opportunities.
And this gives us a great snapshot of the landscape. Yeah, the challenges are real. We're talking about redesigning incredibly complex systems, dealing with data gaps, and changing that deep-seated throwaway culture. But the opportunities on the other side are huge, driving incredible innovation, building resilience, and creating entirely new business models.
You know, this point is so critical right now. In a world with constantly shaking supply chains, a circular economy offers a path to stability. By keeping valuable materials in local loops and relying less on extracting new resources from far away, we build a much stronger, more predictable economic foundation for ourselves.
And that really leaves us with this final thought. Our current linear system wasn't an accident. It didn't just happen. It was designed. And now that we're clearly seeing its limits, we have the power, and I think the responsibility, to design what comes next. So the only real question is, what kind of circular future will we choose to build?